Mark Elliott, it is such a pleasure to have you here with us. Will you tell
Great
us
to be
about
here.
yourself and tell us what you do for a living?
Right. Well, I'm a writer, both a songwriter and an author. I've lived in Nashville. In fact, I think it'll be 32 years in February. I can't believe it. I moved here with a really nice mullet. Apparently, I'm not going out with one. But had I had I known back then that this would happen 32 years later, I wouldn't have made fun of it. But I moved here in 32 years ago and started writing for other people. Um, so I've written for a lot of publishing companies on Music Row, just as a staff writer, and then I've had my own kind of Americana and independent singer songwriter career throughout. And then I started writing books a few years back, 5 or 6 years ago, because I wanted to search for the one business that was uglier than the music business, and I found it. But so I'm just kind of eating up with writing. Writing's kind of been my whole, my whole life's work. So
Excellent. Oh, that's exciting. I love that you're able to do that. Is that what you do for a living? You do that full time?
yeah, I do for the most part. I mean, I've had on and off for all these years. I have a social work degree, which is the only degree that makes music look like it makes a lot of money. It's like, which one's the fallback gig? Not sure. So I've had a what's called a PRN position, which is a less than part-time kind of as needed position at Vanderbilt's Child and Adolescent Psych Hospital for 20 years. And so if I'm busy with writing or on the road, I don't work. And if I need to plug in and do shifts, they allow me to kind of step in and do shifts. So I've joked to people that counseling position has been my bartending gig all these years. um, but
Oh,
primarily I've made my money as a writer and a singer songwriter.
wow. So you've been in Nashville, you said again, for how many years?
32 years in February.
32 years. Would you change that?
No, the only thing that I would have loved to have changed is the decade in which I entered. I mean, I feel like musically and just kind of spiritually and vibe, I was very much a 70s kid, but I would have loved to have been, an older teenager or in my 20s in the 70s. Musically, the connection for that music, especially since I grew up with it, that was my parents' record collection, really. So that was the vinyl I grew up with. So that's the only thing I'd change if I could move the decade back a little bit. But the 90s was a wonderful decade to be in Nashville. There was a lot of money here. There were a lot of artists, a lot of record companies, a lot of publishers. It was a very, very vibrant town. And there was a blue collar staff writing position, meaning that there were a lot of us with little $20,000 draws, advances,
Okay.
which, is not a lot of money, but just to write songs and you're in your 20s, it was
Yeah.
golden. And all you had to do was keep an earshot of that draw, get an occasional cut to keep your deal. And I am really concerned. Well, more than concerned. It's been I think streaming has been a fairly devastating development for songwriters.
Oh, yes, definitely.
The amount, literally the income stream and how that gets generated through streaming is structurally so different than that income stream back when it was just terrestrial radio and live performance. Um, so unfortunately, the first thing that I think streaming did was knock out the blue collar staff writer. So
Oh,
there are still, staff writers making a whole lot of money, but very few that are kind of in, or maybe writers that have no money deals, but there are very few left. I'm thankful to still be in that position to have a deal, but um, it's a hard business for the blue collar writer.
gotcha. So,
On the flip side, and I get in this discussion and slash argument all the time. On the flip side, streaming has done some great things for artists, right? I mean, I think it's allowed new artists or independent artists or artists that didn't have industry behind them to go direct to consumer. And if you were making good music that connected with people, they don't care whether you're on a label or whatever. And so I think on the good side, that did kind of equalize the playing field. But as far as money goes, it's damn near destroyed a living.
Yes, I completely see that. So you have also written, well, you know what? Tell me about this because I've been on your website and I just love what you do. So your music is based on, it's more outdoorsy. I know you've got a GoPro and you were always filming the outdoors. So tell us more about that
Yeah.
and how that inspires you.
Well, I think partially the outdoors for me goes back to the music I was listening to in the 70s, right? And that music that my parents have, certainly John Denver music. I think when that music was really popular and powerful um, on the radio, he sung about the outdoors. And so when I first started listening to that music when I was, 9, 10 years old, it gave voice to wilderness and outdoors and mountains and rivers, and so it just really made it larger than life. And then I was also lucky to grow up for a period of time in North Florida, kind of out in the country. When I was 10 years old, I lived on this street called Starmount. I've actually written a book about it called The Sons of Starmount. And for a year, it was basically a 70s stand by me. And the 70s, you were outdoors, right? I mean, parents didn't see you from Friday when you got off the bus till the street light turned on Sunday.
Right?
And so you were outside. There were 3/4 fishing and rafts, and that what seems like a stereotype now was real back then. So early on, I got heavy doses of the grandeur of the outdoors, and then I have spent a lot of time acting on it. I climbed mountains and rafted rivers and done 200-300 mile kayak expeditions. I really tried to stay in the outdoors, and so it's been a part of certainly a part of my music, just because it was so much a part of my growing up. And of course, with Runaway Home, this Americana band I have, we actually have an album called "Gotta Get Outside," because the other principal in the band and I, probably the only thing we've done more of than step on and off stages together for 30 years, which is how long we've been making music together,
That's
is we've hiked together and kayaked and mountain climbed. And so it's honest, it's genuine. And so we decided to throw together a CD of all wilderness themed songs, because that's kind of who we are as friends as well. And so wilderness is rarely far from kind of the zeitgeist of my life.
So you're also doing something on your own too. I see that there is a country song out that you've got. It's a drinking
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, it's called Drunk for Nothing. So I started, I've always had a solo career as a singer-songwriter, and have released, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 records solo over the years. But early in the pandemic, I started wanting to kind of put out music. And of course, we couldn't travel. Runaway Home, like most people, like most musicians, lost
Right.
an enormous amount of gigs. And so we weren't traveling, and so it was or playing, and it was a real opportunity for me to kind of go, hey, I want to try something new. And I had been writing. This is kind of a cool story. I've got a buddy of mine, Gabe Berdulis, who we've had a standing midnight writing appointment for 5 years on Tuesday nights or Wednesday morning, depending how you look at it. We look at it as Tuesday night. But so we've been writing a song a week for about 5 years, and we actually just finished number 99 the other night. So I'm going to try to get 100 in before the end of the year. But anyway, because he's a younger dude, very talented singer, songwriter, and guitar player, and so he stepped in and said, hey, why don't we play around with doing something totally different than what you normally have done as a singer songwriter. And so I released I think 5 or 6 singles since the beginning of the pandemic on Spotify and Apple Music. And it's been really different music for me. It's let me kind of step out a little differently as a singer. Sometimes as a writer, you can be so comfortable with a genre. And I've been so comfortable with the kind of folk, acoustic, Americana side, because it's just kind of in my blood. But having been a Nashville songwriter for 3 decades, I also, have other influences. And as my voice changed over the years. We decided just to try something different. So all these singles that are up on Spotify that are solo singles for me are pretty different projects. And so the newest one is called Drunk for Nothing. And the concept is that there are a lot of drinking songs in Nashville, obviously, and drunk songs. This one's a little different. This one is like, well, most people drink to celebrate something. And if you're not drinking to celebrate, you're drinking to mend a broken heart. And I thought, well, this is just more of like, I don't have a good reason. I'm just doing it. So it's a fun party song, but the message is, well, I guess we don't have to have a reason.
I love it. I love it. I listen to it. I would say, would you say it's country or country?
Yeah, I've really experimented with kind of a Chris Stapleton, Zach Brown kind of vibe, because my vocally I can do kind of a bluesier, kind of more folk rock sound, and so we really experimented with doing that, since all my previous records have been pretty solidly kind of folk Americana and bluegrass. I also grew up in bluegrass.
I love your voice. I love
Thank you.
that song. I have it already downloaded to my
Nice.
So
Thank you.
in all of this, do you ever like have days where you're like where you doubt yourself or you have imposter syndrome where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and I think any person in any creative arts that would tell you that they don't have some level of constant doubt would be lying to you, because I think the creative arts are so infused with emotion, and it's hard to judge the quality of creative arts the way that we judge other products, right? I mean, you can quantify other products because there's a price attached to them,
Right.
and it's just hard to quantify music or painting or books sometimes. And so I think you run into this, like, level of doubt of whether you're doing what other people would like. I'll tell you though, I've been thinking about that question. Here's a really good question. I don't think having doubt changes throughout a career. I think, honestly, speaking for myself anyway, I've had doubt has played a role in every part of my career just because I've been a creative guy, but the type of doubt changes, right? Like when I was younger, the doubt was more like, am I good enough? Am I meeting the right people? Well, do I have the right look? It's doubting all those kind of tangible qualities. Am I writing what people like? Am I country enough? Am I too country? Am I whatever?
Right.
Now the doubt is more about, is there an industry? Is there a place for me? I don't really doubt my talent, and that doesn't come from arrogance, because I'll tell you, the one great thing about Nashville is that you move here with a little bit of arrogance, which I think you should, because honestly, if you don't move here, and I never fault young people for being a little arrogant, because if you don't move here with a little extra, you're going to just fold in half, because the town will trim the fat, especially in terms, because you move here, most people move here kind of big fish in small ponds, right? They move here from, Cincinnati or San Antonio or anywhere else, and they have kind of established themselves in those towns as a go-to singer or writer or player, and they want to jump in a larger pool. And so you always show up here with a little bit of that big fish, small pond syndrome, and Nashville will take care of that. But I think getting back to that doubt question is that, so I no longer doubt my talents or what I love or what I should be doing. I don't question, hey, should I be changing genres or doing this differently? It's more about, does the industry have a place for it? And so it's changed over the years. But I think doubt's a part of it. And I don't know. I mean, I guess like anything, whether it's self-esteem or doubt, the right balance is helpful. The wrong balance can destroy you, right? Because having enough doubt, I think, keeps you hungry, and it keeps you asking questions, and it keeps you working on your craft, like, hey, and one of the great things about Nashville, and it's still the case 32 years later, is that I can go out and hear a songwriter or hear a player and be blown away and still not know who they are. And I know a lot of people after 3 decades. I know a lot of people in town. I've been here, but I'm constantly meeting new people, both young and old, going, where in the hell did you come from? Right. And so it's really exciting. What happens is, let's say you go out to a writer's night or a show and you hear a player or a writer, you know that you're a real writer if you can't wait to get home and write because you just got your socks knocked off and you know that you need to bump it up versus hearing that person going, I got to go home. I got to go move back. That's kind of the wrong way of looking at it. So I still get really inspired by the level of talent. I think I also get inspired by the people that move to Nashville and stay. That's a different breed of person. In fact, in the 90s, you could literally, because it was so vibrant back then, you could literally see the town swell with people in the spring and summer and fall back in the fall and winter. And it was the 6-monthers. Right? I'm going to give myself 6 months to make it. But I'll tell you, the people that move here and make it their home have been some of the best friends of my life, salt of the earth people, because I think what it takes to commit yourself to a creative life that's going to have huge ups and downs.
Yes.
And financial hardships that, it's easier at 20 to have financial hardships than it is 54.
Right. Very true.
For sure. In fact, but I get constantly inspired by other players and musicians in town. And when I get when that self-doubt that you brought up, or that imposter syndrome, like, should I really be here? Fortunately, I hear somebody great and I come back home and I get jazzed versus down.
Excellent.
And that's been my whole life. I'm fortunate, maybe just lucky that's been my reaction, because I think that would send somebody back home.
Yeah, I feel that way. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
So what else, what has been most challenging for you?
I'm a workaholic. I've been a workaholic in terms of the arts all my life. I'm a believer that that inspiration and discipline are connected at the hip, right? I mean, songwriting wise, if you wait around for lightning to strike, it's probably not going to. But if you write every day, even if it's crap, you're probably going to get lucky soon, right? And so I think that the work ethic involved in the arts is more than other careers because we can't quantify our product that much. So you just have to constantly, one of the things I can quantify is how much work did I put? How many songs did I write? How much time did I spend working on a book, or playing with the band? I mean, you can kind of go, am I working hard enough? Or am I just casually enjoying it? If I'm casually enjoying it, that's great, but I can't sit back and complain about things not happening.
Right.
So your question was about challenges, and I think so. One of the challenges is to maintain a workload between writing books and writing songs and playing music with Runaway Home and playing music by myself. And I use a combination of to-do apps and calendars and just my own sense of being happier when I'm busy to do that. I guess the only other challenge would be, like any skill set, you get better at it with time.
Right.
But in the commercial arts, time is rarely on your side. I mean, I can be singing better than I've ever sung at 54 compared to 22, or writing better songs. I think both those are true, just because, like any discipline, I've got years on my belt finally doing it.
Yes.
But I don't, I look less the part every year, and I am, less probably commercially viable. So one of the challenges is trying to figure out what to do with that imbalance of, wow, I'm really better than I used to be, and I really feel on top of my creative game, but I'm less of a commodity. And that's just being real.
Yes.
So that's where living in Nashville helps, because you can live the life and you don't have to go, well, I'm only real if I have a publishing deal or a record deal, or I'm only real if I have a cut or if I have a full house tonight. You're able to go, hey, I live in Nashville. I've been here 30 years. Hopefully, I'll be here another 30. And there'll be ups and downs, and this is just my life, you know. So that's how I handle that challenge.
So what's been the most rewarding for you in this?
The people. Honestly, I've met the best people in my life here. I've met the stereotypical friend who will, come help you out when you're broken down on the side of the road at 3 a.m. And one of the things that you do in this town, you can tell whether you've been here long enough, is you ask yourself, how many people have helped you move and how many people have you helped move? Because one of the things that often happens with artists is that you're constantly looking for a place to be, you know, especially when you're younger. And so one of the funny kind of measurement sticks is it's like, yeah, I've probably helped 15 of my friends move, half of them in the dead of night. But it's meeting really good people and building friendships that are real and being able to piggyback on other dreams when your own dream equity is low, because it's not steady, right? We can't always feel the greatest about what we're doing. And when that dream equity slides, there are friends that either pick you up and remind you why you should keep going, or you just go and be a part of their success and go, oh, this is what I love. I want to be part of this. And so that's been probably my most inspirational part of being in Nashville. Although if you had to boil it down to a moment, I'll tell you this quick story. And this was way back in the early 90s. I was living in an apartment on the east side of town, which back then, when you first moved to town, you kind of lived on the southeast side because it was cheaper. And as you started getting more successful, you drifted west. And so I was living in a little apartment in Antioch, and I had ordered a pizza, and this dude showed up at the door. And of course, I had music gear all over the living room. And so we had hey, you a musician, I'm a musician, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, well, hey, next time you deliver a pizza here, you ought to bring me some of your songs. And I no sooner got that out of my mouth, and he spun this fanny pack around that he had just chock full of cassettes, because that's how we pitched songs back then. And he threw a demo at me, and he said, man, you wouldn't believe it. This is why I have this job. He said, you wouldn't believe how many pitches I've made being a pizza delivery guy. And I just keep like, female songs and male songs and band songs. He said, I have them all. He had this huge fanny pack. And he said, I keep them all kind of categorized. And if I happen to be at the door of an artist or a manager, and he said, what are they going to do? I mean, I'm holding their pizza. So I thought to myself, that was my reaction. I was like, yeah, man, I have to say, I think that was damn near 30 years ago. I think that's still been kind of most inspiring moment,
Oh my gosh. Well, that starts getting your wheels turning. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah, the kid turned what would be known as kind of like a sloppy job or like something that you're doing in between into like, he rolled it into his career as a songwriter. He found it easier to pitch songs delivering pizzas. So
well, then let's go way back to you. So what inspired your passion for doing this, for being a songwriter? When did it start? And did you know all along that you were going to be a songwriter?
I think I knew early that I would be a writer. I honestly fell in love with writing before I fell in love with singing or performing. In fact, I really think that I learned to play guitar and go out and sing so that I could do something with songs that I wrote. And, where that sense of being a writer came from, I mean, I think part of it was the music of the times. Because, again, going back to these 70 singer-songwriters, Sean Denver and Lightfoot and Joni Mitchell and James Taylor and all, even the Crosby, Stills and Nash, the bands of the time, the songs were really substantive. The lyrics were substantive. So I really fell in love with lyrics early on. I'm talking 9-10 years old. We had a VW bus that I dubbed the 8-track with an engine in back. We had an 8-track player. And that's really where that kind of connection with songs started, was in this VW bus with all these 8 tracks. I really connected with words, because you're already at 10 years old, you're already daydreaming and making stuff up in your head. And when it wasn't guitar licks or grooves that got me, it was words. And so I'm not sure I knew what a writer was, whether it was a songwriter or even an author. I just knew that coming up with words and writing words down had a certain magic to it. So I started writing early. And then in high school, I was lucky enough because it was still that time when school budgets were not being slashed for the arts. I had a full-time, probably like 3 years of my high school career, sophomore, junior, senior. I had a full-time English course and a full-time creative writing course. It wasn't like creative writing was like a couple of weeks of the English course. They were two separate courses.
Oh,
And so I had a pretty intense time in high school of reading and writing, and especially the creative writing course really turned me on because I finally learned that writing words down moved people, if you were good at it. And so anyway, I started writing and singing and playing out in Washington, D.C. area. That was my teenage years. My parents were college professors, so we bounced university towns. And that's why I was in a lot of different places. But I ran into a folk singer named Tom Paxton at a folk club that I helped found years ago when I was like 15 in the DC area, called the Reston Folk Club. Now it's called Herndon Folk Club. But anyway, it was one of these every Tuesday night open mic, and it was everything from older folks who hadn't gotten their guitar out of the closet since college to young people like me trying to figure it out. But once every few months, they would have a show, like they'd invite a pro in, but the people that were regularly going to the club got to open. And I had just recorded an album called Common Ground, and Tom Paxton was the artist of the night, and I got to open for him, and I slipped that album into his satchel without him looking. And about 6 or 8 weeks later, he called the house and said, "Hey, I found this album in my bag. Not sure how it got here." And so for several years, he really mentored me as a songwriter. And then ultimately, he's the one that moved me to Nashville to write for a publishing company called Cherry Lane Music. And so that was my beginning in like 89, 90.
Oh, that's
and then as soon as I got to Nashville, that's why Nashville had this like, and it still does, has this giant aha moment for me, because I was like, I thought that there was a place for writers to be, because Nashville, more so than LA, more so than New York, is a writer's town, a songwriter's town. And as soon as I got here, I got it. It was like my eyes opened. I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. That feeling has never left.
I love that. Oh, you gave me goosebumps. That's incredible. So is there anything that you want listeners to know? Like, so what if they want to move to Nashville? And maybe you've already answered it, but what would you tell them?
Well, as a writer, whether you're in Nashville or not, I think it's important to write every day. Even if you have another job and other family commitments, even if you can only carve out, 20 minutes, carve it out every day, write every day. Get something, get to the point where the blank page isn't the stereotype that it is. It doesn't scare you off. Be used to putting words on a page, because I have not, for the most part, I've not really experienced writer's block ever. I've experienced crap writing. I certainly have my share of, subpar work, to say the least, but I've never really experienced block. And I think the reason is I write it. And so you don't really give your brain a chance to define what writer's block is. So I think it's important to write every day. I think it's important to work on your craft. If you're a singer and not a writer, it's important to be playing out a lot. It's, take voice lessons. I still take voice lessons even today. I've taken voice lessons all my life. In fact, I started in an opera track as a teenager.
Oh,
but I didn't have I had the pipes, but I didn't have the ear for foreign phonics. And so with opera music, of course, you're singing a lot of Italian and German and French. And I just had some disastrous recitals. And so not long after that, I went into bluegrass. But anyway, no matter what you're doing, you've got to live the life. Don't fix them to get ready. Don't get stuck in this. I've got to do these 9 things over 6 months before I'm ready to do this other thing. Start your life. And if you feel like you really want to bump it up a notch, then move to an industry city like LA, New York, or Nashville. Of course, I'm partial to Nashville, but move here with the idea that you're going to make it your home versus I want to go try it out. I know it's probably more likely that people would have that. I think I just want to put my toe in the water. I'll try it out for a while. But honestly, jump all the way in. In fact, Tom Paxton, before I moved, said, man, nothing against Cleveland, but he said, pretend you're moving to Cleveland. And of course, back then, I just kind of treated everything he said as gold. So I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Inside, I'm going, I have no clue what you mean. But what he meant was move to Nashville with the idea that you're moving to any city USA. Fall in love with the city for everything beyond music. Make it your home. Fall in love with the people. Of course, it's easy to do here. It's a beautiful state. Outdoors is a given. But make it your home, because the music business is far more successful if you measure it over 3 decades than if you measure it over 6 months. Right. It can be an abject failure in 6 months. It can be the hardest 3 years of your life. But if you're here for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it's nothing but gold.
So you're saying, like, for example, write every day. So where do you get your ideas from? Do you write different things down when something comes up? Or
yeah, I mean, I do all those things. Of course, and I'll have a voice memo on the phone, and I'm constantly singing into that. But I think it's important to stay on input. And honestly, if you're writing every day, I don't really believe that you burn out. I think that you're more likely to understand being on input if you're writing every day. Being on input means pay attention to that table behind you at the restaurant and what they're saying, because they're going to say something that you're going to hear differently. You're going to hear a hook. You're going to hear a song idea or a book idea because you write every day. But if you're not writing every day, there are hooks and ideas that are incredible that are just going over your head. The billboard driving down the interstate might have a phenomenal hook, but if you're not writing every day, you're not going to see it. So I think it's important to be on input. I go to a lot of movies. I watch tons of movies on Netflix or Prime, and I read, and I talk to people a lot. I think probably most of my ideas come from conversations. Like, I can show up in a co-write and we all bring our titles with us, but it's typically a list of titles that there's a reason why you haven't written them yet. you kind of like put them out there and you go, hey, how about this? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I've actually tried to put that out to like 20 people. Nobody has taken it. So it's more likely, I think, the case that something's going on in that person's life or in your life, and you're just kind of talking like a human being, and all of a sudden somebody says something and the other person goes, whoa, what'd you just say? Yeah. That's how it works. But again, that only works, I think, when you're writing every day. Otherwise, you're sitting around waiting for lightning to hit you in the middle of the forehead. And it just, in my experience, doesn't work.
So then in writing every day, how often are you recording each song? What is not even
process?
Yeah, I mean, are you putting out 2 of them a week and, trying to demo them, or you're just
gotcha. It's a real combination of things. At the very, very least, you're capturing what we call a work tape, usually on somebody's phone because they're good enough now. In the old days, we all had little cassette players, that we would hit record on. But phone is great these days. So at the very least, when you're done writing, you'll put down some version from top to bottom that makes sense. And then you'll live with it for a little while, maybe rewrite it. And then the next step oftentimes is a guitar vocal. And I have a studio, which you can see the stuff behind me, but the whole back half of the house is a recording studio, which is not unique to most songwriters. We all have gear. So oftentimes you can take that work tape on your phone and go, you know what, this is pretty good. Let's go ahead and make a really decent work tape, guitar vocal with some harmonies and some second guitars, and make it a thing. and then of course you can decide, and I have a publishing deal with a group called 3 Minutes Away Music. I'm thrilled to be with them. And so a lot of times what I will do is about once a month, I will turn into the publishing company a combination of things on my phone or better versions that I've worked up. I might dump, 10 songs, or this last one I dumped 22, which I learned was overwhelming. And they'll go through and kind of go, well, we like this, we like that, we like this, and we want to demo this. And at that point, that demo process is a little bit bigger. You're going into a larger studio with a band that's there. And that's an amazing, even after all these years, and I've done those sessions for years, it still blows me away that these musicians come in and they'll listen, like I'll play it on my phone, work tape, or I might play it real rough to them. They'll listen one time, sometimes not even all the way through, and they'll look at what are called Nashville number charts, which are a real specific way of writing out music in Nashville. And they'll go in, and the first time they cut it is about 90% off. Second time they cut it, you're going, that's perfect, but they're going, nah, let's do it one more time. I mean, it's amazing. Sorry, that's Bubba. Hey, Bubba. I'm actually dog sitting for a friend of mine who is out on the road right now. I've determined that being Uncle Mark to my friends' dogs and kids works out the best, because I can spoil them, we can have a good time, and then when it's time to spend money, I take them back. So anyway, so I've got Bubba. Anyway, so this demo process is really, all right, is really amazing. And so you'll go in, you'll probably do 4 or 5 songs.
Okay. Yeah.
So and at that point, then they'll take those songs and pitch them to other artists. But sometimes you can pitch just the work tape, even sometimes just the thing that you did the day you wrote it in your phone. So it really takes all of it. I would say that on the artist side, though, like deciding to put something out, a lot of times that can be a different process, because the sound of a Nashville demo might not fit me as an artist. It might be great to pitch to another Nashville artist, but if I'm going to put it out, I may cut it a little bit differently. So typically what I've been doing is going in the studio and cutting with a band, and then bringing those tracks back to my home studio and messing with them and adding vocals and all the stuff, and then put them out from there. That's kind of been my process. And I think that's pretty common.
So normally if someone's submitting songs to a publishing company, how many should they submit at a time? Is it just one song, or do they usually submit?
Now, if you're pitching a song to an artist or to an A&R person or to an artist manager, I think the best thing to do is to pitch one song.
Gotcha.
Pitch your best, or pitch the one, and be very careful with this. Let me see if I can get him. Hey, Bubba. All right. Yeah. All right. So that's Bubba.
Aw, he's
Yeah, Bubba.
so cute.
Sweetheart.
He looks like Cindy.
I keep telling my friend I'm going to put him in the witness protection program, and I'm not going to give him back, but I think he knows better. But anyway, I think it's really important, if you're pitching to an artist, to make sure that it is, like, if they say what they're looking for, an up tempo or no trucks or only songs about trucks, make sure that you're paying attention to what they're asking for, because they're listening to a lot of songs, and they're looking for reasons to say no, because they're having to go through tons of songs. So make sure that it's your best pitch. It's better. That's better than going, well, if I pitch them 5 good ones, maybe they'll like something out of 5. That's not really the way.
No. Okay.
Go for that one pitch that you think is perfect. Pitching to a publishing company, I think really that's why it's so important to move to town. I'm not sure how realistic it is to send songs from out of town,
Gotcha.
like to a random publisher, and get feedback. I think you, at the very least, you'd be better to build in like 2 trips to Nashville a year, where you stay 6 weeks or you stay 2 weeks or whatever, and really try to meet some people, because I think having a publisher sign you as a writer is as much about the relationship that you build with that person as it is the songs, right? Because if you send in 5 songs and the publisher goes, man, I like all these, but these 2 or these 3 are great, but the publisher doesn't know you, they didn't, they may also go, are they going to be able to hand in another 5 like this? Or have they been working on these 5 for 20 years and, they just don't know you. And so I think the realistic part about getting a deal is, especially in Nashville, because I think part of it is still Southern culture, is forming relationships. But if you were going to send in because let's say one of your viewers or listeners is going, yeah, that's nice advice, but the reality is I can't go camp out in Nashville for a few weeks and I can't move there. What should I do? I would pick 3 to 5 songs, and I'd only show your best. And I would, if you can show some breadth of writing, like, hey, can you write a great up tempo? Can you write a great ballad? Can you write something that's overtly today? Mm-hmm. And do you have a wild card in there? Like maybe it's the weirdest song you ever wrote, but it's real. Everybody goes, I love that song. Maybe include that. So 3 to 5 if you're going to cold mail it, but it's not, or cold email it, however it works. But I think the likelihood of finding success that way is low. It was higher in the old days when there were just more slots available for writers. But even back then, publishing companies are reticent to open mail, because let's say somebody sends in 5 songs, the publishing company opens it, and they really suck. But one of their writers writes a song that kind of sounds like it. All of a sudden, that writer back in Des Moines or wherever is going, hey, you stole my song. So literally most publishers won't even open unsolicited.
Gotcha.
And they may not even open unsolicited, emails. So it's really about, I think you'd almost be better off to go, hey, I'm going to take my one vacation a year. And I'm going to come to Nashville, and I'm not going to try to write 100 songs in the week I'm there. I'm going to bring my best stuff, and I'm going to see how many people I can play it for and how many people I can meet, with the idea of 3 years from now, it may pay off.
Excellent.
Because I've got to develop the relationship. That's honestly, if you can't move here, I'd say it's about relationship building.
So is there any other advice that you would give someone?
I think the arts is about the ride. It's about the process. It's not about the destination. It's not about the individual success, because I think you can get fooled into, for example, it was really easy to go, well, if I can just get a publishing, and then you get one, you're like, if I can just get a cut, then you get one. Then you're like, if I can just get a single, then you get one. If I can just get a number 1. I mean, I think the danger of looking at it that way is that you're never satisfied, or you're never, maybe satisfied isn't the right word. You really need to enjoy the process, right? I mean, most of the enjoyment, I'm not sure comes. It's pretty fun to have a big cut or have something big happen or make some money, but if you can enjoy the rest of the ride, the process of writing songs with people and going out and playing and make it your life, then I think you're more likely to have those moments where success comes. But if you are so centered on defining whether you should do it or not on these flags in the ground that are success, you may be pretty disappointed. So I'd say enjoy make it your life. If you're a songwriter, if you're a singer, if you're a guitar player, make it your life. Don't make it, I can only do this if this happens, or it's only legitimate if this happens. Live the life. And you don't have to do that in Nashville. You can do that in San Antonio, wherever you want to do, obviously, right? It's not like, Nashville is the only place you can play music. In fact, ironically, you can probably play music in San Antonio and make money where you can't do that in Nashville. Just supply and demand, right? In fact, I used to play a great folk festival up in the hill country, Kerrville.
Yes, the Kerrville.
the Kerrville Folk Festival, and Gary and I won their songwriting contest. It was called New Folk, way back, like maybe 1993, and that really made a difference. So, just speaking of Texas, there's a Texas scene, and I think you can make a scene wherever you are, but live the life, live the life. Don't wait.
I love
Start
it.
now.
You have been so inspiring. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks. Well, only because my answers aren't inspiring, the questions were. So that's not always the case in these podcasts or interviews. So I appreciate the thoughtful questions.
Give me goosebumps. I'm like goosebumping over here. Well, where can my listeners find you? Where can we listen to your music, get your book,
Right.
or your books? Tell us where we can connect with you.
So I have a main official website that's called Mark Elliott Creative. And Elliott is spelled with 2 L's, 2 T's, but it's markelliottcreative.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon, type in Mark Elliott and you'll find me. That's where all my newest singles are, and also the whole catalog I've had over the years is there. So you can buy the book from me directly at Mark Elliott Creative, and of course you can find it on Amazon and anywhere else. There's a Audible version of the book now. And the book that's out right now is called The Sons of Starmount. It's a memoir of my 10th year. And the concept is we all have a place and time in our childhood that defines our adulthood. And that's the kind of the outlook of the book. So you can find that out there pretty much anywhere. And then runawayhomemusic.com is a good place to go check out my Americana band Runaway Home. So I'm not hard to find out there.
Excellent. And I'll also include all this in the show notes. So
great. Thank you.
Definitely. So, well, thank you.
It's been a joy talking to you. Thanks.
Yes.